Human beings have a remarkable ability to accept the abnormal and make it normal.
Welcome to the Busy Girls Book Club. We are bringing you the updates you want on all of the internet's most popular books and letting you know whether or not you should take the time out of your busy schedule to give them a read. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Catherine.
And I'm Casey. Today we have read one of Catherine's favorite books that has gotten... Oh, Caitlin, sorry. We're reading one of Caitlin's favorite books, which has gotten a lot of hype recently. It's been something Caitlin has been wanting to do on the podcast for a long time.
Literally since we started.
Yep. It's Project Hail Mary, which is a science fiction book about a science teacher who ends up very central to this mission that is trying to save Earth. But he ends up on this space mission. So the beginning of the book where we start is him inside a space shuttle in outer space, and he cannot remember anything. He can't remember who he is, why he's there, and he has to figure it out. So yeah, it's kind of a wild ride. There's lots of science, and all the good things that come with space, the possibility of aliens, ship malfunctions, and some very surprising invasive algae.
The best character is not human, guys.
No, the character that makes the whole book is not human. So
Yeah,
this book answers the question, what would humans do if space algae tries to eat the sun?
You put it that way, that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
No, it literally is space algae eating sun.
No, I know, but when you say it like that, it's like, wow. That's a crazy premise for a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a crazy book.
It was a crazy premise. Yeah, very smart premise.
If you don't know, Andy Weir wrote The Martian, which got turned into a movie, which is very popular. So this is one of his other books that
Didn't this get turned into a movie?
The Martian? Yeah.
No, Project Hail Mary. Didn't it get turned into a movie?
So it's in production. It's Ryan Gosling, I think.
That's what I had heard was Ryan Gosling.
It was like
a bunch of people are reading it again, or for the first now.
It is the perfect time for me to convince them because it is actually in production finally after they said this was going to be happening for like a couple of years.
Ryan Gosling as a nerdy space scientist is a little crazy to me.
Well,
I know we had to like wait because he was busy with Barbie, but
they knew they needed him. It had to be him.
I think it could be endearing. Anyway, do you have reviews?
I do, and I only have one today.
Wow, progress.
But she's silly goofy, so I'll just go ahead and go. It's a 1-star review. It said, every so often I am lucky enough to come across something that reminds me of how beautiful the diversity of the human experience is. For example, some people love this book.
Oh, I thought that was going to be really nice.
And no, I knew where that was heading straight down the track. I have a very similar review. It's also a 1-star review. And it said, finished, but did not like this one at all. The astronomically high rating on Goodreads is the real work of fiction here.
Ooh. Okay.
Dagger.
Well, then I'll read 2. I have a 2-star and a 5-star because I'll finish this on a 5-star because you guys already know how I feel. The 2-star is if I wanted to read a science textbook, I'd read a science textbook. Am I right?
Yeah. A little textbooky.
Here's a lovely little 5-star. Andy Weir writes such humor and grace that even difficult scientific explanations are fun to read and move the plot.
Haha, Grace. Funny.
Oh my God. Stop. The main character is named Ryland Grace.
Yes. So overall, I think this is actually one of our highest reviewed Busy Girl books. It's 4.5 out of 5 on Goodreads and 4.7 out of 5 on Amazon. So, I mean, resoundingly well reviewed.
Yeah, that's impressive.
It was actually hard to find a lower review. I didn't even come across the one in my scrolling on Storygraph. So,
yeah. Like very few pages of 1-star reviews for a book that has been reviewed thousands of times. So yeah, what about you guys? I mean, Caitlin, do you want to start? This is one of your favorite books.
So I read this for book club a long time ago.
Pandemic book club.
Oh my God. I could not have read this in the pandemic era.
It might have been before I dragged you guys in. Because it says on Goodreads I finished this January 1st, 2021. Like, holy moly.
Wow.
Yeah. I love this book. I gave this book 5 stars. I think about this book regularly. It is one of those that as I've sat with it through the years, my opinion has not changed. I think Rocky is one of the greatest characters ever written. And while, yeah, there's a lot of sciencey stuff worked in, like I never felt stupid reading it. You can either skim it or if you understand it a little bit, like it adds just a little bit more color to the story. But like this book had me feeling things. Like I was in it with those characters, stressed, sad, happy. Like it's a long book, I will give you that. But I was glad my book club made me read this because it is one of my top 5 favorite books of all time.
That is high praise.
Very high.
Don't destroy me, please.
I'm not going to destroy you. Okay. I gave it 4 stars. And I was probably going to give it 5 stars. There's just a couple little things. The science is a little much. I'm not going to lie. I feel like it's needed because it's a sci-fi book, but I skimmed most of the science parts because me and science don't get along and I don't want to deal with it. And then I also hate space. So that's also another thing. Like I'm deeply afraid of space. So this book was not like for me, written for me at all.
No, don't read or watch The Martian.
No, I won't.
No.
I've avoided it like the plague.
I've seen The Martian. It was hard to watch.
If you like that stuff, do read and watch The Martian.
Yeah. And then, I thought it was a little long and I didn't love the ending. So,
Fair.
Yeah. So I'm in a super similar boat. I gave it 4 stars. I thought when this book shined, it really shined. Like, I agree. I loved reading Rocky. Like
Rocky was amazing.
Absolutely. He will be like one of my favorite characters of the year. And I loved their interaction so much. Like now I just sit here and I'm like amazed with his little like Earth dialect. Yeah. He's so cute. And I really appreciated how much scientific research went into this book. I agree. Like, I have not taken a science class since high school, actually. I do think you have to have actually understood scientific concepts to read this book. But
basic,
even with
basic, like
theoretical
chemistry, right. 9th grade, whatever.
But even with my rudimentary sort of scientific knowledge and knowledge of space, I was able to like keep up. But also similar to Catherine, for me, it just wasn't a perfect book. I thought there were moments when it kind of lagged. At times, the science dump was a little too much. And at the same time, there were some things I didn't totally understand. And sort of some things that were like over-explained with some things that were under-explained at times like clashed for me. Also, I admit it took me a long time to get used to the main character. By the end, I liked him, but at the beginning, I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I didn't think it was like for me, like the perfect novel, but I thought it was a really good book and I did enjoy reading it.
So we didn't destroy you, Caitlin.
No, I'll allow those criticisms as long as you weren't gonna like besmirch Rocky.
Never.
I would never besmirch Rocky.
As long as you don't hate on Rocky, I'm good.
No, I loved Rocky. But okay, so our non-spoiler discussion, is the book more plot or character driven?
I mean, there's decent character development, but this is a plot book.
Yeah.
Like it's a save the world book.
Yeah. everything is driven by the fact that he has to save Earth or humanity will die.
And he's on an apparent suicide mission in order to do it.
Right. He's off, isolated in space, and he either fails or he succeeds. Have you, would you read other books by the author?
I have not, and I probably will not. I'm gonna be completely honest.
I was just gonna say I like science fiction and I did enjoy this, so I would be open to reading another book by this author. I will say a lot of the negative reviews were people who loved The Martian and didn't like this book as much as The Martian. So it did kind of pique my curiosity just to see what that book is like, because it seemed like some of the few bad reviews were just like people who like preferred The Martian. So I was like, okay, it seems like this author then has like other beloved books, so I would be into it.
I've not read others. I would read others. I just haven't. I have seen the movie The Martian. And I'm weird about like once I've seen the movie, I don't really want to go back and read the book. Because they're not the same. I'd rather read the book than see the movie. So I haven't read it, but let me tell you, I don't even know why I was watching this movie. I went like alone to see it in an auditorium at Mizzou.
Oh wow.
It was like in Memorial Union. Paid like $2 to go see this movie. And I remember I went afterwards to the bathroom and I had these red marks all over my mouth from where I'd been biting my lip because I was so anxious watching this movie. Mm-hmm. Like the plot is stressful. And like it is also in this one. And yeah, they're both like save the world type books. But God, that book stressed me out. So I mean that movie. So I have not read the book. So but it was a good movie and good story.
Yeah, I actually really struggle to watch space-centric movies. I found it easier actually in this context to read. And in general, I find it easier to read. But even for me, like Catherine, like I get it, like space gives me so much anxiety because the stakes are so high. Like if you fuck something up, you're literally just stranded and like no one can get to you and there's like literally nothing you can do.
And it's horrendous death. Like you're just expecting horrendous death.
The premise of The Martian, and he's like stranded on Mars.
Yeah, and he's trying to get off of Mars. And so
very stressful.
Actually, the movies about early space travel for me are like straight up unwatchable. Even though I know in the end they're successful, but it's because all the science at that time is brand new. It's like so insanely stressful for me to watch it. This is set like a little bit more futuristic, like humanity has to all come together and invent this insane technology. All books like that I can stomach a lot more. So take that with what you will.
Yeah. I mean, like, I didn't have a hard time reading this book and I did not enjoy it. Like, I really enjoyed Rocky, favorite character of all time. And I enjoyed the parts of it where they were like problem solving and figuring it out. And like, I do like the idea of like psychological books where it's like you're just trapped in your own head and you're fighting against yourself essentially, or you have to figure it out all by yourself. I think those are really cool. I just like, and I've said this to all of my friends, like if Earth is dying and we have to go travel somewhere in order to save humanity,
Leave me here.
Yeah. Leave me here. I'm going to take a shit ton of LSD and I'm going to get so high and then I'm going to like go out in a blaze of glory. That's what's going to happen.
Walk into the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't really believe in going places humans weren't like originally placed, you know?
Right.
But also, I will give you this. I don't do space mostly because I don't do aliens. Alien movies? Nope. Very transparent. E.T. ruined me as a child. That book that movie scared the shit out of me. Like I tried to climb my shower curtain for like 3 years after watching that movie. And he's like a friendly one. But, you know, he like sucked the life out of a child, okay? I still can't look at that creature. So I don't typically do alien anything.
That is so
in this case though, I was like, oh, okay.
You're cool with Rocky.
Yeah. He's a rock.
I can do friendly aliens. I hate the trope of an evil alien. It's one of my least favorite tropes, like in writing. I think it's so boring. But we'll get into that in the spoiler section. So how was the pacing of the book? I will say this book was a lot. It's only 400 pages, but there's so much like intense turmoil and science. Like, I would personally not call this book a quick and easy read. Um, and I think that's part of why it was 4 stars for me, not 5, is it's just like dense. There's just a lot in it.
That's fair. At the same time, though, I honestly, maybe I didn't finish this on January 1st, 2021. I think this was back when I didn't even log my start and end dates on books. So I think I just finished it in 2021 now that I'm looking. But I remember, it was a pandemic. I had more free time. So a different time period. But I remember not being able to put it down just because you're like, I gotta find out what's happening. And while there is a lot of science, I don't feel like it was too much of a hindrance. It was still like, I have to keep reading. You know, I have to know what's happening too.
Well, the science had a purpose. It wasn't just to show I'm the smartest person in this room. Like, it has a purpose to move the story along. So it wasn't like, it didn't feel like, sometimes science fiction books can feel a little like, look at me, I'm super smart. Look at how big of words I can write, and then like tell you very complex quantum theory. And then I'm like, well, fuck you, I don't care. This actually had a purpose. I would say it's a pretty well-paced book for what the topic is covering. But yeah, it's slower. It took like me a week to read it, and I normally can read books pretty quickly. And it takes a moment to get into and get used to. But I would say for its content type, Andy Weir does a good job at pacing it.
And I know we'll probably talk about this more. At first, I was annoyed by the flashbacks once he was like regaining memory or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, they actually really helped move things along because it helped you know what was going on in the present, and like you got new little tidbits, and it made you just like more excited to get to the end and find out what was going on and were they going to be successful.
Right. And I will second that I thought he did a good job of continuously coming back to the same scientific concepts so that the things that you're sort of introduced to in the very start of the book are still very important at the end of the book. And I thought that was really good just because reading the book was almost like learning a lesson, right? Like it kind of kept building on and building on those lessons without making them overcomplicated, which I think is like a real skill.
Yeah, 5th grade science teacher Dr. Grace explains it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I do think it's well paced and it's easy to get through. I will say at some points the anxiety inducing moments did have me like taking some space. Like I was like,
That's fair.
Very.
There is like, no space since it's 400 pages, you know?
Yeah.
You have to make your own.
Right.
I mean, there is space, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but space. Okay. Anyway, would you, very pertinent question, watch a movie or TV show of this book?
I will be going to the movie, and mostly because I want to see how they do Rocky.
Yeah.
And if they do it not to my liking, I will get up and walk out.
I'm not going to go see it in a movie theater. I need to be in the comfort of my own home, and I need to be able to pause it when I need to pause it.
Oh no, I will go see this in theaters. Like, bring on the sound effects. Yeah.
But yeah, I want to see Rocky. Although I don't want to see Rocky eat.
Yeah.
My hesitancy. So I actually think Ryan Gosling is a good choice of main character.
I agree.
However, I feel like this book, I have such like a strong idea in my head of what things look like. And that is the only thing that makes me hesitant to see it in movie form, is I don't want it to like invade my mind of the way I have pictured things.
That's why I said I'll walk out if I don't like how they did Rocky.
Yeah.
Wait till I see the posters and then I'll decide.
There you go. Because I mean, if Ryan Gosling is the lead, I assume that they're going to dump a lot of money into it, and in general, it will look good. But I'm also just not that into space movies. Like,
I feel like this would be like Ryan Gosling's Oscar.
Yeah.
This is an Oscar nom
This is like his Revenant, you know?
Yeah. Or his Martian.
Or what was the one? Interstellar.
Interstellar.
Yeah.
I still don't understand what happened in that movie, to be clear, but it was good.
Dude, the amount of just like high profile actors. Americans have a weird thing for space movies. Like,
We
Who
have a
was it?
fetish for
Gravity,
space.
Anne Hathaway or something? Who was in
Yeah,
Gravity? Didn't watch
she
that one.
had.
That one looked like it was gonna give me major anxiety.
I did watch that one, and it did give me major anxiety.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
I've watched none of these because I refuse.
Every great actor has to do a space movie.
LOL.
So when are we gonna get Meryl Streep?
Now I would
Honestly,
watch
I would
that.
watch that. I would watch that.
Meryl Streep in space.
Did anyone watch Space Force? No. That
Okay.
was not a good show. Yeah,
Anyway,
busy girl rating.
busy go rating. Yeah, what do you guys have to say?
Oof. I mean, probably like a 3 because I think it's worth it. But like, it's a lot to read, and it's not probably for the best for a busy girl because it's like a complex topic and it's also kind of a dark topic. End of the world always is. But I don't want to knock it down any further than that because I also think that it's a really well written book and I think it's worth the pickup, especially if you like sci-fi. If you like sci-fi, this is a 5.
I agree with you on both those points, which is why I'm gonna give it a 4 and split the difference. It's not for everybody, but if you're intrigued enough to pick it up, you're probably gonna make it through it, especially if you love sci-fi, you're gonna blow through it. And like I'm a good love sci-fi often, just don't pick it up a lot. So like I think even as a casual sci-fi reader, like this is pretty easy to get through.
I agree. I think this book is sort of at an interesting spot in the genre because I wouldn't describe it as like intro to sci-fi, but I also think it's like a good medium point for people who maybe like sci-fi but don't love it. It's not their like go-to
Mhm.
genre. But that being said, I still like if you don't like sci-fi, you're definitely like not going to like it. Like I would never recommend this book to my mom because she's just not a sci-fi reader. And as much as I think she would enjoy Rocky and the interactions with humanity and all that kind of stuff, I just think there's no way she could actually get through the science part. Um, so that's why I think I'm going to agree with Catherine. I'm going to give it a 3.
Okay.
Well,
Um,
let's get into spoilers. And if you haven't read the book, you're probably very confused who this Rocky is. You should stop here, read it, so then you know the joy of Rocky, and then come back and listen to us as we dissect our favorite characters and the book.
Wow. Okay. So our first question is just point blank, what did you think of the plot, the idea of saving Earth from these sun-eating algae and the suicide mission of it all?
I think it's really well done in the beginning with the amnesia. So you don't totally know why he has amnesia, but he kind of like thinks his way through it where he's just like, well, I was in a coma for a long time. People in comas sometimes have retrograde amnesia. And I'm learning the things that I already knew. And I thought it was an interesting, like I would have never thought about a single cell organism that would take us down. Maybe a
Right.
virus that infected humans, but no, I would never think of an algae on Venus hits the sun, comes back and breeds a ton of times until it steals most of the sun. Like that's wild.
I also thought it was super like inventive, but also written in a way that you're like, oh, this is plausible. Like,
Yeah.
probably won't happen, but it was
Please
written
no.
in such a way that it's like, wow, yeah, I see why this is happening. Like, that's crazy. Um, just because his science is sound enough to be like, uh-huh, but also like not complicated enough that where you're following it. And yeah, I kind of also like the waking up to amnesia thing. I think it helps the pacing of the book because you're figuring out alongside him. So
Mhm.
you feel like you're much more clued in from the beginning because you're starting kind of at square one with the character instead of him being like really smart and sciencey in advance. Like you're waking up with him.
Yeah, I totally agree. I loved the concept of this like space algae. Um, I thought it was super inventive. Um, I don't read like a ton of sci-fi, even though I enjoy it. So it's possible this has shown up before, but for me, it's the first time I've ever read um, a version of an evil alien that's like this. And I thought it also makes a ton of sense because, like, how does life start? Like, what's the life form that always comes first? It's normally single-celled organisms. It's not normally complex life. So I thought it all just kind of added up and was fun. And I was like, wow, I never would have thought about that. But that seems like such an inventive and cool way to kind of start the book. So I was like super intrigued by this, and I really enjoyed getting to hear more about Project Hail Mary as it went.
So we kind of touched on this, but what did you guys think of the narrative structure? We kind of have talked about we didn't love the flashbacks when they first started, but then they start to make sense as you go along. What did you think of this first person narrator figuring it out as he goes along?
Yeah, at the beginning, I did find the flashbacks to be a little clumsy, and also like a little bit convenient. Like, it wasn't like awful. It's not like I read it and was like so offended that it was just like totally broke the story for me, but it was like a little bit like, okay, now we'll just sit around. Then he'll kind of remember what he needs to remember. And it just felt like, I don't know. I didn't feel like the pacing totally worked at the very start. I think at about like halfway through the book, I stopped feeling that way. And it finally felt like there was kind of like a synthesis and a rhythm between the plot and the flashbacks. And so it stopped bothering me. But yeah, I just didn't totally love them at first.
I do think like the current time period plot picked up speed at the same time the flashbacks did. So at first both were a little slow because he's figuring things out in the beginning of like him being roped into Project Hail Mary is not the super, interesting part. By the time you get to where like he's been forced into space, you're like, oh shit, like this is crazy. I think they had value and I'm not against them, but at first I was just kind of like, whoa, we haven't even figured out what he's doing in space. Why are we flashing back? Like that's why I feel like it was not my favorite, but like I think they really played well into it. And I don't know, I think the way that he ended up setting it up was perfect by the end of it.
Well, I think it made it like a masterclass once you realize that it was Strat who forced him onto the ship. And that was the only way she felt that could save humanity. And like you can see her logic behind it, but it is forcing a man to die.
Yeah.
Like a suicide attempt to save the world. But like it's also to save the
trolley
world.
Problem.
It's the trolley problem. And that's interesting. And that's what brings the amnesia all the way around. I didn't think we would like have that brought all the way around. So when that happened, I was like, oh, okay. So that's why this is happening. And I also, I don't know, I kind of enjoyed some of the flashbacks where it was just like, I need to remember my name so the computer will let me out of this area. I need to remember why I'm here. But like, he's like a really smart scientist. And I liked his little like caveman science experiments to figure out where he was. Like those were just kind of cute. Like he was just like ball on string. Okay, I'm either in a centrifuge or I'm in space. And it's just like, okay, this is kind of like cool scientific method style. And then I liked him being a teacher.
Into it.
Yeah. I like the kids. I liked him being a teacher. And I liked him as a narrator because he's like kind of thrust into this. He didn't ask for this, but then he's the savior of the world. But he doesn't have that ego to go with it because he never asked for it.
Right.
Yeah, our next point is on the main character, so good segue. I honestly struggled a little bit with Ryland Grace. He just has such a corny aw shucks personality, and it
love
grated
the aw
on
shucks.
me.
I like the aw shucks too.
It grated on me a little bit. Honestly, the biggest problem is that we never find out his exact age, but his estimated age is like early 30s. I think to me, it would have made more sense to me if he was a little bit older, like early 40s. Because his personality to me just felt a lot older than his actual age.
I pictured him like early 40s.
Yeah,
right.
Same.
Like, I just sort of like chose to override that in my brain and be like, I don't care what you tell me. Like, to me, this man is 45.
Well, and the most unbelievable part of it was that he was a science teacher. So a young science teacher doing this, I don't know. It felt...
Right. And he had, you know, he got his PhD, so he was very educated and had done his thesis. Like all this stuff takes a long time. So I kind of get it because also the space travel itself took a long time. But I just thought I would have liked him more from the start if he had been older.
Yeah, because I mean, like, he talked about his disdain for the scientific community after they like shunned him for his thesis. And so he just basically like published a paper shitting on them and shitting on all their ideas. And then he said, fuck you, I'm going to go teach elementary school, middle school, or whatever, middle school. And so, yeah, I always pictured him as older because you kind of need a lot of time to write all those papers and get your PhD and become an expert in the field.
Right. But that being said, I did get used to him and I enjoyed him more and more as the book went on. But I think really that's why the book is not 5 stars for me, is the beginning did take me a minute to get into, and a big part of it. Caitlin, like you said, it's slow which is necessary because everything is like starting.
Like if you're coming out of a coma and you have amnesia, life is slow.
Right. Like you have to take time to be like, oh, I'm a scientist.
I'm in space.
So I get it. Like I'm not faulting the book for that, but then that with his personality and it just like I just didn't love it immediately.
I get it.
But
But
I
his
liked
relationship with Rocky
Rocky
makes
honestly
him easier.
Rocky like salvaged him for me.
Rocky is the book.
Rocky is the book. But that's our next question. What's up with Rocky, our little spider rock?
First of all,
rock spider?
Like a rock spider. I don't know.
Yeah.
5-armed
no eyes or
spider.
mouth or whatever.
Yeah.
I constantly, when I flash back to this book, I'm like, never would I be smart enough to learn this creature's language that fast.
No, it was so quick. I was like, this is almost too convenient how quickly this person learned.
I mean, yeah, probably. But also there's people much smarter than me in the world. They're much better with languages. So even though this wasn't like a phonetic language, this was music, essentially.
Basically, what I thought is like this actually sets up both planets so bad for their relationship because you can't base a whole like interplanetary relationship off 2 of the smartest members of that species. Like, I was like, now we're going to take this back and then you're going to have to like meet all the idiots of this planet. And it's going to be like, oh,
yeah.
But I loved when we get to the very end and we see a little bit of Rocky's society.
And he's got the piano. Oh,
yeah, and they call it thrums when they all get together because it's so musical and like everyone's talking and it's like music. I was like,
so I'm told this is like the greatest audiobook of all time, and I need to go back and do it in the audio version.
Oh, I can totally see that.
Yeah, my brother-in-law, this is his favorite book ever, and it's the audiobook specifically. And I've had multiple people say that it's like the audiobook is the move for this book.
I did not even think about how the music notes would play. Yeah.
I haven't listened to it, so I don't really know, but apparently it is like the greatest audiobook ever.
Wow. But yeah, I thought Rocky was super inventive and he had a great personality. He had a great sense of humor.
The tunnel is just like everything. The little
tunnel,
like,
I'm gonna build a tunnel.
Little hamster wheel.
Oh my God, Rocky.
I felt like their yin and yang was like really perfect and also believable, where they were kind of good at different things and the things that came naturally to Rocky's species were different, and how like humans were like sort of stupider and not as good at surviving.
But humans also knew about things like radiation and things that Rocky didn't. Yeah.
But our like creativity kind of made up for it. So we had actually had like more advancement than they had. And then, but their sort of raw talent for like math made up for a lot of their shortcomings. And so it was very interesting. And I just cannot get over their like dialogue exchanges. They were so good.
Yeah.
And it was so nice that they didn't conveniently like use the same math and language, you know, like he did it the hard way and it was fantastic. Like the book ends up being far more about relationships and humanity and almost not humanity than it is about like saving the world.
Yeah,
I love
the book starts off like trying to save Earth, but now they're trying to save 2 planets and they have to kind of put aside their egos and put aside their priorities to help each other out. Yeah. And Rocky is just like this giving guy who's just willing to like build anything, do anything. He's like Bob the Builder, essentially.
Yeah. Can he fix
it?
Yes, he can. Yeah, no, I loved, because I mentioned earlier, I hate the evil alien trope. Like, I just find it so tired and overused. And like, I think that's actually a lot more complexity in like the good alien, right? Because Rocky immediately doesn't just want to save his planet, he also wants to save Earth. He's like, oh, we can do this together. And I thought their teamwork was really beautiful, but also just the idea that, like, look, if there's another species out there that's looking for a solution to this, they're probably more similar to us than they are different.
Right.
And they
You
make
made a
that
good
point
point in like the single cell organism accidentally being a parasite is way more realistic of like an alien threat than Rocky, who's also like developed and
right. Because
has
a
thoughts and
developed
feelings.
species is going to mind its own planet first. It's like amoebas that are just sort of naturally explorative and accidentally invasive. But it's also just like, why would we assume that aliens have no sense of morality and have no sense of humor? Like, humans developed all those things authentically, so like maybe aliens could too.
Right. Like they also reproduce and have families and
Right.
Well, and then
So the frame of just like they accidentally meet both trying to save their planet from like the same exact problem, I was like, love.
love. Well, and then the fact that the book comes down to whether or not the human was going to be the good person when he decides to go back and help Rocky, when he learns that the Tau amoeba had eaten through Xenon essentially, and like his entire like thing was contaminated. He could have said, no, I'm going to go back to Earth, live the rest of my life as a hero. But instead, he's just like, no, I'm going to go help Rocky, even though this is my sudden death. And then Rocky's so surprised and he's like, wait, no, we'll make sure you live. And it's just like, oh, Rocky.
And it's also kind of like he does have this little bit. You get to the point where you know that he didn't really have the choice to go. So he's kind of also like, well, Earth kind of did me dirty too. Like,
right.
Might as well help them since I'm already stuck up here, not by my choice.
Right. Okay, at this point, I want to introduce one of the things that did annoy me a little bit. It's off topic, but I want to discuss it. One of the things is that I don't feel like Ryland Grace had much character development through this novel. And I wished he had more. I feel like the end choice where he like puts himself aside and goes to save Rocky is meant to be this sort of like peak character moment. But I felt like his life back on Earth was left so flat. Like he didn't really have anything other than his students. That to me, that just like left this whole like gap in the novel to me. Because the whole reason he doesn't want to go on this, like he doesn't want to go on the space journey in the first place because he doesn't want to die, which I think is fine. Yeah. But it's also like would have made a lot more sense to me if he had something on Earth that was like genuinely worth living for, and he felt like he was
like
actually
a fiance or something,
right? And he felt like he was actually giving something up,
or like Interstellar. He has a child back at home, you know?
Right?
Yeah, it's a true like dilemma for him,
right? And it felt just like it was actually so easy for him to go. And then that's part of why I didn't like the ending, because it felt like he put so much into saving Earth and like wanting to get back there that then when he had the opportunity to go back, he didn't. And I was like, I just felt like that point could have been a lot more fleshed out. Like there's sort of like a brokenheartedness there that wasn't like fully explored.
It was a too quick of a decision. I agree with you on that. Like the ending just kind of felt a little rushed, I'm not going to lie. And then I almost wish they had done the hard thing and killed him.
Yeah. I was waiting
kind
for
of like
Rocky.
a weird happy ending, and I'm like, in your bubble in a city eating me burgers.
So A, that grossed me the fuck out.
Yeah, that's gross.
B, the hard thing for me that I wanted them to do, it would have killed me. That one scene where Rocky is almost dead, I was like near tears.
Yeah.
However, I actually think that Rocky should have died and that Ryland would have then had to have landed on their planet without Rocky to help him. And then just be like, hello.
Yes, but also no.
Yeah, I'm here to help you. I know you cannot.
And like carrying Rocky off the spaceship and his arm. No, I couldn't do it.
But that would have been the hard thing.
Carry Rocky.
Anyway, I appreciate that this book was very complete as one novel because we complain about that frequently. However, I think the story was strong enough that I would have read on for a second book if they had set it up like that.
Sure. Like it's Trip Back to Earth or something.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked it the way it was. I see there are ways it could change, and I do agree that there were like his decision to go back to Earth was pretty easy from what you knew, because there wasn't a lot for him. And I think the character growth we experienced was him remembering everything and marrying it with what he was experiencing now in space. So yeah, it wasn't like a dramatic character growth at all, but I don't know. I don't know if it had to be for me.
Yeah.
Like just the fact that like the adventure and the friendship, I think, was the important part.
Yeah, I think those were enough. I do kind of.
When have I ever said that about a book? The adventure and the friendship were enough.
Normally the plot is everything.
It's such an ideal quote.
There's a lot of tension in this book already. So I think it like helps that like we don't need that tension between him and Earth.
Yeah.
But he almost gets off too easy because he's just like, I'm mad at Strat, so I don't really want to go back and I have nothing to go back to. And I've made an actual friend, unlike anyone else I've ever met. So I'm going to go help my actual friend. But if you like added in some turmoil there where it's like I had a relationship, I had a life, and now I have to choose between life and friendship.
It's also like he chooses to live in a bubble and eat himself.
Yeah.
As opposed to going back
about
to
the
Earth.
me burgers.
Yeah, like that's
well, he eats amoeba and then he eats me burgers.
It's so bleak to me that like he would choose to live that life over going back to Earth.
Yeah, and they had said like we will get your ship ready.
Right.
The other thing is like, I don't know, you're a scientist and you have met this incredible creature who's now your best friend. Would you not be a little bit curious how it lived?
I would be totally curious for like a year, probably. And then I think I would be like, okay, like, I love you and it's sad to leave you, but I'm not from here. Like, I need to go back to my own people. I need to go back to the planet where I can live outside of a self-contained bubble.
Yeah.
Teaching the little Brock children.
I know, that was cute. That was real cute.
I'll give that to them. Yeah. And his like translator on a piano.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Leading to the science. We've already commented on this a lot. So in general, I liked the science and thought it was well incorporated into the book. The one complaint I have is that sometimes it felt like Rocky was just the ultimate plot armor. Like something breaks, Rocky can fix it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't understand how any of this stuff works or the fact that Rocky can just invent literally anything they want.
Yeah, it seems like he was making things out of thin air almost at times where it's just like
he had a metal that Earth didn't have. Which
it's not the
magic
Xenon.
Fix it all, but
it was like I can make it into anything, I can weld it into anything, and I also can pull shit out my ass. Like it kind of did feel like that at moments.
No, ass is where his food goes in. Captain.
Yeah, and then comes out too.
And out.
It's gross.
I did. Okay, side note. We've already talked about this a lot, but some of the cultural intricacies too of he's like, you sleep, I watch. Like,
and like, don't look at me eating. It's gross.
Yeah.
Eating is private. Sleeping is not.
Right. But yeah, like Rocky builds this whole like own environment for himself inside the ship. And I was like I'm sorry, that seems super hard to do. And he's just like, yeah, I'll just make this right now.
It's like a spider. He's just like,
yeah, but he can make it right now. But he can create an entire atmosphere that is way hotter than what the ship is.
Yeah.
And filled with ammonium.
Yeah, and it somehow does not hurt Ryland's ship.
You know what?
At all.
I'm not mad. I thought it was cool. They're like little bunk mates. It's so cute.
I mean, I
like
thought it
little
was
college
cool.
roommates.
I'm glad he could come onto the ship and they had like a whole buddy hamster wheel thing, but it did feel a little convenient to the plot.
Yeah.
Because
It
the
was
only time,
convenient, but he proved it scientifically.
yeah, but the only time he didn't follow through was the Xenon, and that was more Ryland's fault than anything else. That
Yeah.
the amoeba was leaking.
Yeah.
They were in a hurry. You can't be in a hurry.
Not for good science.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I think that's my last bone to pick. So I've said it all. Next question. Oh, so the sort of like plot twist, real moment of tension when it comes to Earth is that we learn that Dr. Grace was actually forced to go on the mission. What did you guys think of that little tidbit?
Experience some righteous anger,
Yeah.
Yes.
but also like understand it. Like we said, trolley car problem. Like, do you let this guy keep going about his life or do you save the entire world? Well, unfortunately for that guy, you probably want to save the billions of people.
Well, and
Right.
even Estrad had said like she was going to do anything and everything to save the Earth, even if it means blowing up Antarctica, even if it means like taking over governments. Like she was just like, I have total authority to
She
save the
did. She had
planet.
like the permission to do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it was so sad because you're just like, you feel so bad for Ryland because like he wants to live, even though he doesn't have much of a life. He does want to live. And anyone put in that position, most people are going to choose life over a suicide mission. So that's not like unsurprising that he did choose the way he did. And then he makes up for it, obviously. I think it adds a depth to the story that wasn't there before once you figured it out.
And
Yeah.
actually, to take it back, the most unbelievable part was not that he was a science teacher. It was the level of international cooperation
Yes.
involved in this mission.
Okay, so that's actually what I was just about to say is I actually loved the way they envisioned this working.
Yeah.
So, because this is all truly an all hands on deck moment. And we have been lucky enough, or perhaps unlucky enough, I don't know. Like climate change is currently the greatest challenge of our generation, but it's not
This is
immediate.
essentially climate change, too.
Yes.
Yeah. Different way.
It's just not immediate enough of a concern to warrant the kind of response that they get. And I kind of love the way it happens. The part that was unbelievable to me is that they find someone as effective as Strat, and everyone agrees on that person being the unilateral leader. Because I agree, for everything to work, there has to be one singular person who can just like
Administrators.
push shit through. But every country on Earth, like there's no way
They'd be
America
like,
lets it not be
the
an
one
American.
person, here she is.
Yes.
Every one of them.
Exactly. In America,
Also, it'd be a man.
and, right? And we'd be like, and we have nukes, so complain and we'll kill you.
Yeah.
Like I just cannot envision that realistically happening without war breaking out. But I did
I
still,
agree. Like the idea of it
yeah.
is so fun.
Right.
It's
I will
unrealistic.
say you see the realism creep back in when she like says, I don't want a woman on this trip because women create tension and science is a male dominated field. And so we don't want people killing each other over sexual tension. I was like, you could see where the realism starts to creep in then, where it's like, we can't be perfect as a society. But yes, I agree. I don't think the US, Russia, and China would be ever allied together.
No.
Yeah, like they're like, we're just gonna let this Norwegian woman run everything the way she wants to. Like, there's no way. But I did like it. I did think it was cool.
It was cool.
Let's be honest. The boss lady would probably be a Brit. Those ladies don't take shit.
Fair.
It is always somehow a Brit.
Mhm.
But okay. That brings us to the ultimate ending, which we've kind of talked about a little too, but Grace saves Rocky and then lives out like a large part of the end of his life on an alien planet.
It sort of leaves it open that like maybe he'll go back.
It does. The way they leave it is we're actually not sure if Ryland ultimately goes back or not.
But we know Earth is saved.
Yes, but then the Spideys get their data together, and so they know that the sun has recovered. So we know that Earth got their shit together one way or another.
The singing rocks.
The
Telling me
singing
save the
rocks.
day.
The
it's so
harmonious
poetic.
singing rocks.
It's so poetic and gorgeous. But yeah, I do choose to believe in my own mind that he did go back to Earth. But who knows?
Yeah, I was
Ryland's
kind of okay with the fact that he didn't. Like, he
Yeah.
found camaraderie. And, like, if you felt alone on Earth, why go back? You know?
yeah.
He was also, because of the atmospheric pressure and stuff, he was feeling bad on the
he
planet.
was dying.
And he was
Yeah.
dying. So I don't think there would have been a way for him to survive the trip back.
I guess, like, the ultimate question it leaves you with is, do you choose a free, healthy life, or do you choose being happy with people you care about? You know, like a short time with people you care about or a long time carefree.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's about like the time that had passed. Like Ryland knew that the Earth that he left was not going to be the same Earth that he went back to.
True.
And I do think he is ultimately a little bit of a coward, which I don't even mean in a mean way. Like, I think he has a healthy amount of fear. And I don't like it when main characters just have absolutely no fear for no reason. So I think the choices that he makes are actually like very realistic and very human. So I don't say coward with judgment. I say that as like realistic thing.
Also, you can imagine if he went back like 10 years later or whatever, and they're like approaching spaceship, they'd probably be like, oh no, and like shoot it down.
Yeah.
Totally. The spaceship they never thought would come back, yes.
But anyway, I do think a large part of what kept him away is that he didn't know what version of Earth he'd be returning to. And it's entirely possible that what he was returning to would have been bad. Like, just because they avoided being totally destroyed by the algae sun-eating creatures doesn't mean that like Earth society was well. And so I think he did ultimately choose happiness over a great unknown.
Yeah.
But that makes me sad too.
It's definitely a bittersweet ending.
Yeah.
But he's got his rock children in his dome.
His rock children. His little Spidey rocks.
His Spidey rocks.
And little space rock could make you feel so much.
And his meat burgers.
Disgusting. I still can't get over it.
Yeah.
Letting them engineer your own body so that you can eat it. Dead.
Smart. Disgusting.
Ugh.
Yes.
But that's coming from Casey, who recommended Tender as the Flesh.
So
yes. I'm a vegetarian no matter which way you slice the pie. So
a whole book about it, or a little mention at the end about how he's surviving on a planet so there are no open loopholes.
Yeah. Tough. But that Tender as the Flesh was a book about morality. This is not about the morality.
Sort of was, though.
Yeah, but not related to meat. Not related to meat
consumption. You're correct.
All right. Anything else you'd like to say? Any final thoughts, team?
I hope everybody loves this book as much as I did. I will say for a long time I said it was my favorite book, and then I read The Will of the Many.
Yeah.
Speaking of, do you want to give book recommendations?
That's hard on this one, I feel like.
It is hard.
Well, according to Goodreads, readers also enjoyed The Will of the Many.
The only book I have read. That's because that sort of may end up being sci-fi. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Sci-fi fantasy. There's Ninth House, which we read, but that was more fantasy.
Okay,
Outer Space, Crescent City 3.
No!
I'm kidding. Do not read that book.
Okay, I am actually going to recommend The Future, which is end of the world fiction. So not true science fiction, but sort of science fiction-ish. I think it has a lot of the same themes about humanity and what happens when we truly are pushed to a world-ending crisis. But obviously this is from the perspective of someone who's sent to outer space. the future is from the perspective of the wealthiest and most privileged people on Earth who can have the most resources at their disposal to protect themselves. And so I think there's a lot of the same kind of ideas there.
I'm actually going to recommend one of the few sci-fi books we have done on the pod, Sea of Tranquility. I think if you are looking for gateway sci-fi books, that is a good one. Has some complex space type stuff in it too, but in a different way.
I realized I said ninth house when I totally meant Gideon the Ninth.
Okay.
I was wondering.
Yeah. No, just 2 9s in there. But yeah, I was recommending Gideon the Ninth, not ninth house. Ninth house is nothing the same.
By the way, if anyone knows when the next one of those is coming out, not Gideon the ninth house, please tell us.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also, the Will of the Many, apparently, there's this TikTok, so funny. I think I sent it to Catherine. I don't know if you've watched it. This girl, she was like, I need to know when the next Will of the Many book is coming. So she emailed the author.
Did she get a response?
She got a response from his publishing team and said something about like, oh, well, we're not doing physical arcs. Like, we hope you'll buy the book when it comes out in November. They let it slip that it's coming out in November.
Oh, wow. Shit.
This girl bossed so hard. She said, who knew? You just had to ask.
Slay. Yeah. What a slay.
November. I really admire that. She said, if there's something you don't know, you can actually just ask. Wow. Inspired.
People in the comments are like, wait, you can do that?
Now I just need to email all of my favorite authors and just be like,
yeah. Hey.
So SJM, ACOTAR 6.
Knock, knock. When's it coming?
Okay.
Wow. Well, I'm really glad we finally got to do this episode. Caitlin, I hope you feel like we lived up to your wildest dreams.
This has literally been on our little book list we keep since we started the podcast. Because I put it there and I've been hoping and it worked.
You finally got us to read it.
I finally got them.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yay. Yeah. I didn't steer you wrong. I didn't want you guys to like crush my soul and not like a book that I love.
You really hyped up this book, so.
Yeah.
Well, the reviews match, okay?
They do. That's true.
I stand on it. 10 toes down.
As you should.
Was that the right phrasing? Am I cool?
Yes.
Yeah, that was correct.
Or if you're Rocky, like 5 arms with 3 toes.
Yeah.
I love it. I imagine them as little chameleon grabbies.
Yes, that's what I imagined too.
Oh, I was going like insecty, like ant.
I was like chameleon.
No, the chameleon.
That's what I want to know. Everybody tell us how you pictured Rocky, okay?
Yeah, seriously. Slide into our DMs at Busy Girls Pod pretty much everywhere. And yeah, we love to hear what you think. We'd also love more book recommendations. Those can be submitted also on our website, busygirlspod.com. And you can also find our book recommendations there. So yeah, please rate and review our podcast 5 stars. And if there's something you don't like, you can also tell us.
Or don't.
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, don't tell us actually, but also don't rate the podcast. Only 5 stars. Thank you. I'm Casey.
I'm Catherine.
And I'm Caitlin. Thanks for listening. And when you get a chance, take a break with the Busy Girls Book Club.